The butterfly program is based on my daughter who had a stroke, and we've learned from stroke victims that the brain has to repattern itself because their parts of the brain get damaged. Like in her case, the part of the brain that tells the muscles how to coordinate and walk was damaged. So she took a year to learn to walk again. From the drugs that you've used, from alcohol up to ice, the worst damage that's done is called the reward system, is how we learn. This is worth doing, I'll do it some more, and then we get curious and learn. And the reward system is run by two chemicals, D and E. But the chemicals called heroin and ice and all drugs damage the reward system, and it becomes a comfort system. So all of a sudden the brain has forgotten how to learn and just starts looking for comfort. The whole mechanism of the brain is turned upside down. Once you stop using for a month, that mechanism tries to get back to normal, but it's damaged. That's why we use heart-driven. Back 100 years ago, they began a thing called AA, and they began thinking that perhaps alcoholism and addiction is the disease. Well, it's not. It's a patterning of the brain away from learning and away from being in a family and a community to being self-centered and seeking comfort and relief. So we have to change that. But we've learned from folks, from stroke victims, that once you start, after 30 days or 40 days, say 60 days of not using, the brain then experiences feelings without comfort, and it doesn't know how to do that. So when we're 2 years old, the putting down of memories is chemically 90 seconds. Now hear me, chemically 90 seconds. But as an adult, that doesn't include memories. So when we're putting down new patterns, every time you have a feeling, you breathe through it for 90 seconds, then distract yourself. Because the brain will go, whoa, I don't know how to do this. You just say, it's okay. Like you're dealing with a charm, it's okay. We're just going to do it for 90 seconds. Like you put a little toe in the water. Okay? It's okay, brain. But then the memories come in, so you distract yourself. So you're showing the brain that we're really protecting you. Don't be frightened of the change. The brain hates change. What we're meant to do is have balance. And the lovely word called harmony, and the other word called peace. And that comes to being connected to our families, to our dreams. It's connection. Now the reward system has chemicals which help this connection. Now drug use destroys that. It's called endorphins. We think part of the function of endorphins, we think. But there's something in the brain that connects you with your spirit. Like when you are hugged by someone who loves you, you go somewhere else. When you think of your children, you go somewhere else. When you're in love, not lust, that's the brain, you go somewhere else. That's a connection, a very deep connection. Quantum mechanics is teaching us how mysterious the whole thing. But if you do something to a photon in London that's been entangled to a photon in New York, once you do it to that one, you'll do it to that one faster than the speed of light, because there's some spiritual connection that we don't understand. We call it quantum state. That's another word for saying we don't know. It's a mystery. I know what it is. It's called love. Okay? This connection thing. So the butterfly program is teaching you. So it's just not my word for it. It's teaching you how, and explains how this has happened. So we will do drugs and the brain. We'll do drugs and addiction, so you understand. Drugs and mental health, and drugs and recovery. Okay? Now, I know we've done it before, but the way I get my brain, and there's an old adage, if you don't use it, you lose it. I make my brain learn poetry every morning. Like I do exercises, but I exercise my brain because I love poetry. Because the words mean much more than just the words. And by going over and over and over, like if you're learning to play the piano, you play the scales. So each time we go over it, you go, now I get it. Whereas I'll tell you that every time I leave here, I say, oh, I think I've got it. I think I really know how to tell the people about it. And she said, Vito, you've been saying that for 10 years. But when I say I got it, it's the look on your face that goes, I can't put a word to it, but I think I understand. Like, you got it when you were on the Big Dipper and you felt like a child again. Yeah. You got it, didn't you?
Yeah.
That the only way to recovery is not finding out who did it and why and whose fault it is. Yeah. And what psychologists want you to know. You became a child again for a while. Beautiful innocence. And the reason, before we get into the technical stuff, it was called butterfly moments. And the reason it's called the butterfly program is when my daughter was in intensive care, and she was only 8, and they couldn't operate on her brain because there's too much fluid. On the wall it said, what the caterpillar calls death, the butterfly calls life. So you're saying, whatever's going to happen, either she's going to become an angel or she's going to come back to us. But it's a change. And you have to find some beauty in the change somehow. Otherwise you'll stay in grief. And the other reason it's the butterfly program is I had a lovely friend called Lisa a long, long time ago who was a heroin user. And she developed what's called septicemia. She must have had some dirt in her head. She had she had pimples all over her body, and I got her into Windana anyhow, because for a while I was president of Windana. The staff were a bit scared, but antibiotics cleared it up. And after 30 or 40 days, she was okay. She would come and see me in the pharmacy, kiss me on the left cheek, I don't know why the left cheek, tell me she loved me, and just walk out. And my brain kept saying, oh, she's grateful. The third time she did it, I heard her with my heart on my head. It's a beautiful, young, innocent woman telling me she loved me, not what the brain thinks. So I learned to listen with my heart. Then I slowly learned to talk from my heart, to drive my head. Whatever knowledge or information my head was, It had to be driven by love. Otherwise, they're just words. I used to go to Pentridge way back, and one of the prisoners, a heroin user, came up to my nose and said, "I hear you're a friendly guy, but don't tell me you're my friend. I'll effing work it out." And it's like, wow, they're just words. And we just throw words at each other. I love you. It's something you have to live. When you live your words, they're coming from here, not here. When you act as a friend and don't expect any thank you, you just do it because you love your friend. You know you're a friend by how you live. So you don't need words. You don't need thank yous. That's the butterfly way. Because when a butterfly lands on a stone, for a moment that stone feels like a flower. The colours of the wings make it feel like that. And it's called alchemy. The butterfly feels the grounding of the stone, and the stone feels what it's like to fly and be colourful. Just for a moment. For the moment on the Big Dipper, you're a child again. That's a moment. Collect those moments, because they're money in the bank. Okay? And you never stop collecting them. Whenever you find something beautiful, stop and become one with the beauty. There's a man called Dostoevsky, who wrote Brothers Karamazov and Crime and Punishment, said one thing: beauty will save the world. Because beauty and love, to me, are what God's about. I don't understand God and all that stuff, but I understand beauty and love. And that bypasses the brain. The brain only knows pain, pleasure, fear, and loss. It doesn't know real love. It feels good. We use a cold smack not to feel good, but that's just an endorphin. And that only lasts like acupuncture for 15 minutes. But real love, this stuff, makes your soul smile. Now, we'll get to drugs in the brain. So the whole point of the butterfly program, so you get it, is you switch from brain thinking to heart thinking. I love my children. You will then do what's best for them, not I'll do what's best for them, therefore I love. I love and will do what's best for them. You're not your thoughts. Trust loving. You will make 1,000 mistakes. Who's counting? Only this is counting. Oh, you made a mistake. Oh, you're not perfect. Isn't that interesting? I'm not perfect. You never will be. Now, to start with, unless there's some questions, do you really understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I care about myself. I will honour myself, and therefore learn to believe in myself and trust myself.
Yeah.
And the more you can trust yourself, you don't need other people. You choose to have them in your life, but you don't need them. The minute you need them, the biggest drug is need. The other drug is fear. Well, what does she say? I don't want to be lonely. We are alone. No one's going to die for you. No one feels your pain. They think they do, but they don't. Choose to be with people. My teacher said, dance in your relationship. Dance with your partner. Dance. Choose the music and dance. But when the dance is over, you're separate. When your partner goes to work, he's got his problems. You're connected by love. So it's a whole different way. You know, the old thing was just realise you're an addict, you're an idiot, you're a loser, you're just a bloody woman. That's the worst punishment of all. Because women through the ages have been considered third-class citizens. The biggest thing in all of this is you slowly regain your sense of self-respect. Otherwise you wait for someone else to tell you how good you are. You know how good you are by the caring you do, by the honouring you do, and the truth of your life. That's it's so old-fashioned, it's new. Right, now, drugs in the brain. The brain's got three main parts. That's the spine with the S part, which is called the sympathetic. That's fear, fright, flight. And there's the balance, the parasympathetic. That's where herbs work. That's where yoga works, to help you balance the fear, fright, flight. Every time you get frightened, you release adrenaline and your heart beats faster. This spinal nerves are connected to your heart, your lungs, your stomach, your bladder. But the parasympathetic tries to bring it back to balance. Now, the biggest source of natural parasympathetic is your diaphragm. In for 5 and blow out for 10. Okay? Because that sends a message to a thing called the vagus nerve. You'll see on YouTube vagal exercises. Now, herbs do that. Valeriana, passion flower, the stuff I gave you here, magnesium, all strengthen the parasympathetic. But it's the 90-second rule. Now, we'll get to that. In here is the middle part of the brain, the emotional part, with a thing called an amygdala, which fear and trauma make very sensitive. It tells you what's a threat, what's going to be frightening. And in the middle is the anxiety center, which releases all the adrenaline. And here is the hippocampus for the memories. So that's the emotional part. And up here is the thinking part. The left hemisphere, where we have language and reason and words and one and one on two, and have the right hemisphere, which has an overview, which is where children, which is where music and sound, and time is in this one. This has no concept of time. If you say to a child, a 2-year-old child, we're going to the beach in a week, they haven't experienced life enough to make time a thing. I used to say as a kid, where did yesterday go? Where did it go? Well, that's where music is. That's where poetry lives. It's not thinking. That's what connects us to our spirit or our soul. And certain drugs shut the left hemisphere down. Marijuana shuts it down. And alcohol shuts it down. Hallucinogenic shut. And heroin is the prince of drugs in that respect. Now, all of this contains brain cells, 100 billion, that's 10 with 13 noughts after it. And they talk to each other or connect with chemicals, dopamine, adrenaline and serotonin. And from the food we eat, we make them, Now, this is how we've learnt since the 80s. Calcium, and it's called ionic calcium, it doesn't really matter, it's like what's in a battery. It's electric. Goes along here, along the myelin sheath, releases the chemical, crosses the synapse gap, little gap, hits a receptor, makes a path, and creates a memory. That takes 90 seconds. Like for a muscle to move, for me to speak, for you to walk, for you to think. There's trillions of these things in our brain by the time we're 10. Trillions. In fact, there are more of those than there are stars in the universe. Huge. Now, on the other side is magnesium. So calcium starts it and magnesium keeps it balanced. Alcohol, ice take magnesium out of your body. That's why we shake. Heroin takes calcium, so you have no will. A lot of women didn't have periods if they used heroin, because without calcium, no glands will work, no muscle will work, nothing works. It's the element of the will. So all of these things are connected. Now, all of these chemicals are covered in GABA and glutamate. Glutamate speeds all the chemistry up around the brain, and GABA balances it, keeps it balanced. That's where alcohol and Valium, they slow it down. Marijuana does it a different way. So it's all balanced. There's chemicals that speed it up, there's chemicals that slow it down, and there's this happening. Now, when I talk about the 90-second rule, in a 2-year-old child, while we're learning how to think and to do things, we have evolved that if we have chocolate and we go, wow, isn't that beautiful? I love it. I don't want to eat anything else, I just want to eat chocolate. We have here a thing called endorphins, which balance the chemistry. And for some reason, endorphin is part of it, but we don't know the total mechanism. But a child only experiences a new feeling for 90 seconds. The chemistry of that to there is 90 seconds. So the chemistry of a feeling, not the feeling itself, but the chemistry of it, not the memory of it, is 90 seconds. So if you're going to take control of your feelings again and not immediately want comfort, you breathe through it and then you distract yourself. Go and do something. So you're telling to your brain, I'm in charge now. I'm not going to do what you want me to do. I'm going to do what my heart tells me. I want freedom and beauty and love in my life. I don't want to have to kiss ass. I don't want to do any of that shit. But I better learn how to do it. 90 seconds. It also is an intention to learn, because your reward system is not working. But you have an intention and you honour it, you begin to believe that you're fed income, that your words have meaning and substance. They're not just, bleh, I love you. So easy to say, isn't it? I love you. But I'm
More
going.
easy to say.
I'm going, it's all too bloody hard. And now you're getting old and ugly, I'm off. I only want young, beautiful women in my life. Fuck off. This is the big thing about the butterfly program. It's not about goals or purpose or we're getting there. I'm 90 days clean and I better get another medal. This is honouring and attention, and the only person that knows it is you, not a group. Oh, well done, you've done 90 days. You honour your intention. So you're in charge. It's your life, your party, and you'll cry when you want it. Not when your brain tells you, oh, you're lonely, oh, you're sad. No, I'm not. Because it will pass. But I won't. I'm here forever. This is, not that. That gets old and ugly, like your face, but your soul stays young. So by honouring your intentions, you become believable. Are we getting there? That's not the question. Am I honouring my intention? And you begin to have a relationship between me and I.
It's the most powerful of all the lessons.
Yeah. Between me and I. And I'm I. This is me. 91 years old, prone to mistakes, love laughing, love learning, love loving. I want to love the minute I get up in the morning. I don't want to go, oh shit, I'm old. I want to love. I want to laugh. So that's the 90-second rule part of it, and that's the explanation. That's the most important thing to understand. But you see how we're changing the words? It's honour, not goals or purpose or meaning. It has no meaning. You give it meaning. I give it meaning. There's no meaning to this. We'll make it mean something because you jump on a Big Dipper and go, I love Vito. And I love Vito too. That represented to you what I talk about, freedom, beauty, innocence. But we have to be practical. You know, I've tried to fly, but it doesn't work. It does with LSD, but it doesn't work. So I have to use my brain occasionally. If I make it personal, to stay alive, I have to be very careful what I'm eating. But I so love life, I hardly eat. And I keep losing weight, and I can't do that. So I all of a sudden have to be practical. I have to eat a little more. I have to watch my calories. So it's a balance. That's a hell of a lot to take in. But there's one other thing that you need to know. The chemicals of the reward system are dopamine and a thing called endorphin. Now, the reason drugs work, for many reasons, it's molecular shape, it's molecular electricity, it's this, it's that. And every time we learn something, we'll learn something more. All you know is that ice works because it'll fit into the dopamine receptor. Heroin works because it fits into the endorphin receptor. Not completely. The first time you use a drug, you start to damage the lock. And the brain protects itself with a chemical called CREB, and it begins to develop tolerance. Because it's not the natural, it never quite works the same. So you keep needing more and more and more. And as you keep doing that, you then destroy the reward circuit. The best example I can give you, my mate who's on holidays with her feet in it, she really loves her bare feet in the soil, it feels her indigenous background. When you touch the earth, it's different. Anyhow, when she first got out of jail, she asked me to help her because she had been using ice for 14 years and just done 6 months jail. And we got her kids back. And she didn't even think of using for 6 months. But she was running late to pick up her children and DHS were involved. And the brain went, the left hemisphere, I could lose my kids. And the minute that thought came, it triggered off the amygdala, which is now very sensitive. It's frightening. Crisis. And the brain is so patented, it can't deal with it. It needs drugs. So for 6 months of not using, happy that she's got her kids back, the minute a crisis happens, but we had practiced the 90-second rule, because I had just learned about it. So I told her, whatever happens, the minute you feel like using, you stop and you breathe for 90 seconds. And you tell yourself, I love my kids, I love my life. After 90 seconds, it occurred to her, I could ring and say I got a flat tire. But that thought didn't come near her because it was a crisis and the brain goes, boom, I want drugs. No matter how strong you think you are, it's like someone throws something at you, it's called a reflex response. So you have to unlearn that. But the only way you can learn it is I love my freedom and really mean it. I love my kids, but I might lose them. Now, that's the reason for the 90-second rule, because there's a pattern in your brain and there's a memory in your brain, even though in the pattern, after a month of not using, that path to that circuit gets weaker and weaker and weaker. But there's a memory there. And memory is something we don't understand. And just needs a crisis to trigger that memory off. So, learn to feel again is the message. Don't run away from your feelings, but know that you can only do it like a child for 90 seconds and then you distract yourself. So you're repatterning the brain is I'm going to feel, I'm not going to run away from my feelings. But you're not strong enough. People laugh when I say, I don't send my 2-year-old to the supermarket with a list. 1, she can't read. 2, she couldn't carry the bloody things back again. But the minute you leave here, like the lovely lady, a crisis coming and she's not ready. So admit that to yourself. That's the truth. So run from it. They're not ready for real relationships. I don't think we ever are. When you meet someone who's prepared to fall down with you and not judge you. And that's what you have to do to yourself. My daughter fell over 100 times learning to walk. And I heard her say something that I heard my heroin addict friend say. Vito, I'm sick of trying. I'm saying, yeah, it's okay, darling. I want to dance with you. Come on. Come on. I want to dance. Don't go to left brain, because it's all too bloody dark and it's all too bloody hard. But if you're an optimist, if you can dream, if you can hope. One of the women in the prison said to me when I left, thank you, Vito. I don't really do anything. No, you give us a sense of hope that it is possible to change. I don't know how you do it. You're going to have to work at it. And you're allergic to work. The drugs make you allergic to anything hard. It's too bloody hard. I don't know, it's too hard. And that's not a character thing, it's a chemical thing. But if you want it enough, that's it. You know, my football coach said, you want that ball enough, you won't notice the bruises till after the game. If you love your quarter enough, it doesn't matter what hurts. So, okay? So you have to come from here.
I remember I would go really well and then I'd relapse. It was like boredom and just everything got to me. I just seemed to not be able to go past a certain period of time. And I would try, but I never knew that I could override it. But I was sort of trying blindly to not use. I didn't want to relapse. And I rang you up and told you, Vito, I've got my check. It's like physically hard for me not to run straight to the dealer. But at the same time, I didn't want to spend the money. I just couldn't afford it, you know. And you said, just breathe, just breathe. And and then I remembered, well, I gave birth and it was really hard, and I remember the breathing helped. There has to be something in that, you know. And you go, well, meditate, even meditate. No, so I sat there with the meditation on, and it was like I had felt like a physical thing going on inside of me, of, you know, like a war. I wanted to run and have a hit, but I didn't want to, you know what I mean? I really didn't want to. And I just sat with it, and then eventually that anxiety and that physical, you know, because it's physical, isn't it? It's like, oh, I've got to fucking get out of my way, you know?
So sick and
yeah, and it worked. It stopped. Not just that, I felt like I was stoned because I just went into this space. You
like
know?
a placebo effect.
Yeah.
That fight, that conflict is still with me in a different way than from drugs. Mine is grief. I miss my son so much. I miss my brother. I miss my wife. Now, I don't want to stay under the clouds, but that conflict that it's too hard to come out and play. But you're going to have to do it. It's like learning to swim. You know, when I think back, my parents let me go to the Middlebright bars when I was 7 or 8.
That's where I used to go.
There's no teachers. And I thought, I wouldn't let my kids go. But my dad, because he at 20 came from Sicily to here, said, the only way you're going to learn. He knew the bars had a supervisor, so we knew we were sort of safe.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to learn and teach yourself how to do it if you want it enough. Like, I grew up during the war. When I was at school, the war was on. And I'm Italian. And we were on the other side. I was a Dago Wog, you fucking alien.
We'll edit it.
And even though I was at school, I still wasn't Vito. I was a Dago Wog because of the war. But then when I was 14, and the war was just about to stop, I was captain of the football team. I was in the ants team and in the swimming team, and in a boys' school, all of a sudden I was Vito. Now, I wanted the ball more than they did, because if I'm a good footballer, I will be accepted into the tribe. I learnt to run because people used to chase me. They want to hit me. And I taught myself to swim. But it was so shallow. When I think back, my well-being depended on them accepting me to that. But it sets a pattern up. Because the only way I could sort of belong was to get approval from other people and try and fit in with everyone. But who am I? When I first started to learn counselling, my beautiful teacher, and she was a gorgeous woman, said, Vito, you're very charming and you can fit in, but if I took all those things away from you, what do you really want? And I thought, I don't know. No one's ever asked me what I wanted. In my day, you were told you're good at this, you're going to university, you're good at that. No one ever asked me, what do you feel like doing? I don't want to do anything. I just want to play. So find out what you want. And if it's being a mother, and don't let anyone talk you out of it. Oh, you've got too many kids. I would have had 12 kids. I would have survived. I trust that. I'd go and steal if I had to. Edit that out.
That'll be just a whiteboard. Who's this, Vito? I'll get to edit him out.
There's no Vito, we've edited him out. Right, so that's the beginning of the butterfly program.